Hear the Passion of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Matthew. One of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said,
"What's in it for me if I betray him?"
They paid him 30 pieces of silver, and from that moment he began to look for an opportunity to betray him. On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying,
"Where shall we celebrate the Passover?" Jesus said to them,
"Go to the city, find a man, you'll know him when you see him, and say, 'The teacher says it's almost time. I need to keep the Passover at your house with my friends.'"
So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, he took his place with the 12, and while they were eating, he said,
"One of you will betray me."
And they became greatly distressed and began to say to him one after another,
"No, not me, never."
"Never. No, certainly not me."
"The one who shared the bowl where I washed my hands will betray me. I knew one of you would, though I had hoped."
Judas, who betrayed him, said,
"It's not me."
"If you say so."
While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it, gave it to the disciples, and said,
"Take, eat. This is my body."
Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying,
"Drink this cup, for this wine is my blood, soon to be poured out for forgiveness. Do this to remember me until the day when we'll gather around a table again in the new kingdom."
When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them,
"You'll desert me this night. You'll run away. Fear will take hold of your hearts. But remember, it's not the end."
Peter said to him,
"I will never desert you."
"You will tonight. You will even deny you knew me to protect yourself. When you hear a cock crow, it'll remind you."
"Never. I will die with you."
And so said all the disciples. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to his disciples,
"Be with me while I pray."
He took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be grieved and agitated. And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed.
"Father, I cannot do this. I haven't the strength, so if it's possible, let this cup pass from me. But if not, be with me. Be with me. Your will be done. Your will be done."
He came back to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter,
"Couldn't you stay awake for just an hour? Stay awake now, and pray you don't have to face this darkness."
Again he went away for the second time and prayed,
"Help me, my Father. May your will be done. May your will be done."
Again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So, leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the 3rd time, saying the same words, "Your will be done." Then he came to the disciples and said to them,
"Still you cannot stay awake, but now it's too late. The one who betrayed me is here."
While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying,
"I will kiss the one."
At once he came up to Jesus and said,
"Greetings, Rabbi,"
and kissed him.
"Beloved friend, do what you have to do."
Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly, one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him,
"Put down your sword. It's not the way. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once overpower these men? My Father's will is not the sword."
At this hour, Jesus said to the crowds,
"Why have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a bandit? You know me. I sat with you teaching in the temple, teaching. You didn't arrest me then, so why now? What has changed?"
Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to see Caiaphas the high priest, in whose house the scribes and the elders had gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards in order to see how this would end. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At last 2 came forward and said,
"This man said, 'I'm able to destroy the temple and build it again in 3 days.'"
The high priest stood up and said,
"Have you no answer to their accusation?"
But Jesus was silent, and the high priest said to him,
"Are you the Messiah, the Son of God?"
You have said so. But more than that, I tell you that the Son of Man will be at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven.
Then the high priest tore his clothes and said,
"How dare he say such a thing? This is blasphemy. I will hear no more. You all heard him. He's a madman. What is your verdict?"
"Kill him."
"Kill him!"
"Kill him!"
Then they spat in his face and struck him, and some slapped him, saying,
"Prophecy, Mr. Messiah. Who is it that struck you?"
Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said,
I saw you with him.
But he denied it before all of them, saying,
I don't know what you're talking about.
When he went out to the porch, another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders,
He was one of them.
Again, he denied it with an oath.
I don't know the man, I swear.
After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter,
"Yes, you did. Admit it. We know you were."
Then he began to curse, and he swore an oath.
I swear, I do not know the man.
At that moment, the cock crowed, and Peter remembered what Jesus had said. He went out and wept bitterly. When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. When Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he repented and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. He said,
I betrayed him. He was innocent. He did nothing wrong.
Grown a conscience now, have we? Well, that's your problem. You have your reward. Leave.
Throwing down the pieces of silver in the temple, he departed, and he went and he hanged himself. But the chief priests, taking the pieces of silver, said,
It's not lawful to take back this blood money.
After conferring together, they used them to buy the potter's field as a place to bury foreigners. For this reason, that field has been called the Field of Blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of the one on whom a price had been set, on whom some of the people of Israel had set a price, and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord commanded me. Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor said to him,
Are you the king of the Jews?
You say so.
But when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him,
Are you deaf? Do you not hear these accusations they make against you?
But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the festival the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone whom they wanted. At that time they had a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they had gathered, Pilate said to them,
Whom do you want me to release for you? Jesus Barabbas, or Jesus who is called the Messiah?
For he realized that it was out of jealousy that they had handed him over. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him.
Have nothing to do with this man. I have suffered because of him. He has haunted my dreams.
Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed.
The governor again said to them,
"Which of the two do you want me to release for you?"
Barabbas.
Barabbas.
Pilate said to them,
"Then what should I do with Jesus who is called the Messiah?"
Crucify him.
Crucify him.
"Why? What evil has he done?"
Crucify him.
Crucify him.
Crucify him.
So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took some water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying,
"I'm innocent of this man's blood. Go, see to it yourselves."
His blood be on us and all our children.
So he released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying,
Hail, King of the Jews.
They spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they went out, they came across a man from Cyrene named Simon. They compelled this man to carry his cross, and when they came to the place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink mixed with gall, but when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his clothing amongst themselves by casting lots. Then they sat down there and kept watch over him. Over his head they put the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads, saying,
"Save yourself, Mr. Messiah. If you are the Son of God, then come down from the cross."
In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him, saying,
"He saved others. He cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel."
If he came down from the cross now, we'll believe in him. He says he trusts in God, so let God deliver him, if he can be bothered with his son.
The bandits who were crucified with him also taunted him in the same way. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land, until 3 in the afternoon. And at about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice,
Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. My God, why have you forsaken me?
When some of the bystanders heard it, they said,
This man is calling for Elijah.
At once one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the others said,
Let's see if Elijah will come and save him.
Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment the curtain from the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. The earth shook, and the rocks were split. The tombs also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. After his resurrection, they came out of the tombs and entered the holy city, and appeared to many. Now, when the centurion and those with him who were keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said,
Truly this man was God's son.
Many women were also there. Looking on from a distance, they had followed Jesus from Galilee and had provided for him. Among them were Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James and Joseph and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. He then rolled a great stone to the door of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting opposite the tomb. The next day, that is, after the day of preparation, The chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said,
"Sir, we remember what the impostor said while he was still alive. After 3 days, I will rise again. So, make sure the tomb is secure until the 3rd day. We don't want anyone stealing his body and telling the people he has been raised from the dead."
Pilate said to them,
"You have a guard of soldiers. Go, make it as secure as you can."
So they went with the guard and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone. This is the Passion of the Lord.